US clinical experience typically is very important to match. So, in this series, our speakers talk about USC, how to get observerships, hands on experiences, or electives. How can you leverage it for the best effect? But in some cases, you may not get the traditional USC. So, our speakers also talk about what are some of the other ways you can get the USC, comparable USC, and use it very effectively to match. So watch on along with the other videos in this series, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more and more videos.
Section, I see Snehal, Nick and Sahib, Ashley. We wanted to talk about what should any applicant and IMGs in particular look for when they go for externships, rotations, how to best leverage those. So you can bring in your AMG perspective. You've been a medical student at Duke, now going to Seattle, you've done these things. So what do AMGs look for? What should IMGs look for as they actually go for any of these rotations?
Great. Well, thank you. My perspective as an American medical student, I would say that when you're going for an away rotation, what you should be looking for is a residency program that you'd be interested in attending. Usually the away rotations, you can use them as sort of an audition rotation. And so you really want to demonstrate kind of your work ethic and be the best medical student you can be during that rotation, because you're going to have so many opportunities for networking with other folks in that rotation. So you'll be talking to the current residents who applied in that field, and they have insight and connections at other programs. You'll also have the attendings that you work with. And so not only will they be able to help you as an in for that specific program, but other places where they've worked at or trained at. You can use these folks as a contact. So they'll usually, if you do a good job and you're a good student, they'll be happy to send introductory emails for other programs that you're interested in applying to, or even once you're interviewing there, you can meet up with them and during either interview with them, or they can send letters on your behalf when you're applying for residency programs. So also what I would say is, especially if you have research interests, try to do your away rotation at a program that has research opportunities in your field, because that way you can work outside of just your immediate team and use networking in your research area. So use that as a time to meet up with the collaborators, as a time to get to know other people in the department, because again, they're going to be your biggest advocates when you apply for residency at that program, and then they can advocate for you at other programs as well. The last thing that I would say about your away rotation is that you really want to take time to meet with people in the program leadership. So if you're at Duke, for instance, and you're doing a rotation, it's expected that you're going to take some time during your rotation to meet with the program director or the assistant program director and talk about and if you do this later in the rotation, you can talk about your experience so far and why you think you'd be a good fit for that program. And so I'm going to come back in a little bit and then talk more about research. So thanks.
Thank you. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, so Snehal, you wanted to talk about how to look for observerships, how to look for these opportunities, and then I think Sahib as well wanted to talk about something related.
Sure. So yeah, how to get an observership is a big question for all international medical graduates. And one advice I would give is for all the match applicants for next season to join the Facebook 2018-2019 residency match group. On that group, we have 2 or 3 very good lists that have information about all the hospitals and programs that offer externships or observerships to all international medical graduates. So I would highly suggest that reach out to all these programs. Now, when you reach out to these programs, don't just send an email saying, I'm looking for an observership. You should apply with your complete profile. And by complete profile, I mean attach your step scores, attach updated CV, which should be very well written and grammatically correct, attach a personal statement or a cover letter stating your interest in that program, what are you looking to achieve through this rotation, and what are your future goals. And some of these programs will also need a few letters of recommendation. So have your letter writers ready, or you can just send those letters by yourself. The other thing you can do is to reach out to all the internal medicine residency programs or whichever specialty that you're applying to, because many programs do actually have observership program available, but they have not written it on their website. So it's always a good idea to write to the program director or to the program coordinator, and also to reach out to individual faculty members. If the faculty email address is not available, just look up the program coordinator's email address and you can come up with their email address, or simple Google search or PubMed search would make their addresses available. And the last option is to reach out to any local hospitals, any hospital, nursing home, clinic, or even a free clinic. But I would strongly advise do not do any private clinic rotations, because they don't add much value to your resume. And as I said earlier, this is your first communication to the program, so be very professional, be very polite, and make sure you are emailing at least 20 to 25 people every day. Most of these people will not respond, but don't stop emailing, because this is the best way to reach out to people, make connections, tell your story, and eventually get the rotation. So these are a few things IMGs can do to get observerships and externships in US.
Sahib, I think Sahib also wanted to talk about this. So Sahib, yes, all yours.
Yeah, so let me just talk about what not to do once you get an observership, because this
Yes.
happened in my group, like in a couple of observerships. So you definitely don't want to be the guy who went to the attending on the very first day and asked them for an LOR, and there's going to be one guy among your group every time. So you don't want to be that guy, right? And just wait till your last week, even your last day, and then if you think you had a good experience and they really like you, then maybe ask for an LOR. Also, it's really important to remember that you're only going to end up using maybe 4 or 5 LORs. So it's better to get 4 or 5 really good LORs than like to have, I saw some people with like 12 or 13 LORs, which are no use really. Like if you really have those many contacts, it's better that you keep up with them, and once you go into the interview season, you ask them on your behalf to go talk to the PD, maybe get you an interview, other than just getting another normal looking LOR which you are not going to use anyways. And also like a lot of time it comes up like you need, so a lot of time this comes up a lot, like people saying like I don't have any contacts, and it happened to me because I am the first student, the first person from my batch to go through this, so I had absolutely no contacts at all. So it's the observerships and the externships that you're going to have are your opportunities to make those contacts. And I've had residents that I rotated with who actually went to the PD and like kept on going there and asking them, can you give this guy an interview? Would really like to work with him next year. So that's your chance to make some really good contacts during your observerships and externships. And like IMGs tend to be a little shy. I definitely know I was, and I like screwed up a lot, like a couple of observerships, just being shy, hanging back there and doing pretty much nothing. So try not to be that guy.
Thank you, Sahib. I do want to bring in Chintar now because he has a unique kind of USC. So,
all right, guys. Hi, everyone. How are you today? And I'm going to talk something it's a little different than what Sahib and Snehal has talked about. So in my case, I did just one observership last year, and I was a repeat applicant, and then I didn't match, obviously, because I didn't have any experience. So compared to what they did and what I did, I'm just going to start out a little different. So when I started my observership, I was into 6 months, like around December of 2016, when one of the doctors I was working with, she said, hey, you know what, my nurse practitioner just quit, and so how about you start seeing patients for me, and I'll go in after you, and I'll supervise experience. This was something which came out of nowhere, and we were just talking the other day, and I wrote this experience everywhere. So it was something really that came up, and I took it. Like, I didn't even think a word. I said, okay, I'm going to take it. So I started doing that in December, and then in February, I remember one of the folks from the program I interviewed came to the clinic, and right now I'm here sitting in front of him because I interviewed with him, and now he's in front of me sitting on the other side, and I'm asking him questions. And he's like, well, when did you start doing this? I said, well, it's been 2 months. So then he started like, oh, it's been 2 months and you never told us. So I knew that, oh, that was one of the big mistakes, is I didn't communicate with the program that this is what I'm doing. I'm not an observer anymore. I have more clinical experience. I'm seeing patients. Yes, I knew I wasn't going to get matched, and that's what happened. So I had two options when I didn't match. Either I started looking for more observership outside of Arkansas, where I was doing this for like 2 years or a year and a half, like Snehal did, and like he talked about, different states, or I stayed back. So I went to the program director at the program I interviewed at and asked him, like, this is the program I want to match in. Like, I'm not concerned about it. If next year I would have a better chance, I'm ready to stay back and work for 1 year. And he didn't give me a direct answer, but he told me one thing. He told me that, you know what, just keep on doing what you're doing right now, because in my terms, I don't consider observership as USCE. So whatever you started in December is what your clinical experience now is going to be counted on your application. And I was really surprised because he was just honest. And he outright told me, you don't have to look for any observership. Keep on doing what you're doing, and next year you'll have a really better chance. And well, he was really right, because this year he did take me into his program. So in my case, he wanted to see how serious I was about staying back and stuff like that. So this was particular experience, I would say, is for the folks who have green card or who can work in the United States and get paid, because this is something y'all can do, is when you're working with a doctor, create a rapport. Like for 6 months when I initially started an observership with this doctor, I used to work from 9 to 9. I showed her interest. I'm like, I want to learn everything. And that's what got me the job I got today, and that's what eventually got me the residency. So, like, I would say I just practically started at one place and ended at one place, and I still got into residency without even moving out of state or going to any other hospitals. So I would say is that everyone has a different experience, but if you're really interested in a program, make sure they know about it, and make sure they know what you're willing to do and willing to sacrifice to get into that program, because that's going to go a long way. And I'll talk more about how I got this experience and stuff like that further down when it's my turn again. So, Pawan, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.